الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين على مر الأيام والليالي والشهور والسنين أما بعد. As we continue in this tremendous treatise entitled Fataawa al-Hamawiyyah al-Kubra by the great Imam Abu al-Abbas Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi al-Numayri, the one who died 728 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. With the time now 6:55 p.m. Wednesday, October the 19th, 2021. With degrees on the Hijri calendar, or the Hijri Tariq, or the Hijri date, which is now currently the 24th of, technically the night is Thursday, the 24th of Rabi' al-Awwal, the year 1444, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We were discussing the Aqidah of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, of what the great Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah conveyed in this book of the speech of Abu Hanifa. We talked about last class that the book entitled Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh, was a book that Abu Hanifa authored in Aqidah, setting the record straight of what his belief was, rahimahullah. In addition to that, you'll find that if you notice, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah accurately ascribed or write that he believed that the book was accurate as far as its ascription to Abu Hanifa. Because you'll find that some of the ulama say that the book was not ascribed to him, that the isnad or the chain of it returning back to Abu Hanifa, fihi maqal, that it has some speech concerning its authenticity of it being accurately ascribed to Abu Hanifa. But you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam is from those who say that it was ascribed to him, rahimahullah. And we said that the book Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, that it consists of two isnads, two asanid, meaning two separate books in which it was conveyed through that particular chain. Alhamdulillah. One was from Hamad. The first narration, or the first isnad, or the riwayah, was Hamad ibn Abi Hanifa, rahimahullah. And the second is who Shaykh al-Islam referred to in his book of Al-Hamawiyyah, which is Abu Muti' al-Balkhi. Abu Muti' al-Balkhi. So you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam said this, Abu Muti' al-Hakam ibn Abdullah al-Balkhi, that he asked Abu Hanifa concerning the greatest fiqh. So this is what we mentioned a couple of classes ago. But let's continue in finishing what his belief or his aqidah was, rahimahullah. So let's return back to it. So he said in the end, this is where we stopped last class, وَتَعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. He said, in regards to the qadr, so Abu Hanifa said, and that you have full knowledge that what has afflicted you or what you have attained, it was not meant to miss you, or you was meant to have it. You were meant to have it. So because we know that the meaning of this hadith is conclusive for all those meanings. مَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ. What has afflicted you, it was not meant to miss you. Or it could be explained, that which you attained, it was meant for you to have. It was meant for you to have. And وَمَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. And what missed you, لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. It was not meant to afflict you. Or you could say, what you did not attain, even though you set out to attain it, that it was not meant for what? It was not meant for you to have. So whatever in this dunya, if Allah wants you to have something, you will have it. And if you set out for something and you do not attain it, meaning Allah did not want you to have it. So all those affairs are connected with the qadr in light of what Abu Hanifa mentioned here in this context. So he says, وَلَا تَتَبَرَّ. So that was the affirmation of the qadr, the affirmation of the divine decree or the determination and divine decree of what every Muslim believes. That nothing in this existence occurs except by Allah Ta'ala and His will, or number one, or what happens in accordance with His knowledge. What we mentioned last class. As a matter of fact, we can talk just a little bit about it. Where you'll find that he mentioned himself, rahimahullah. We talked about that already, alhamdulillah. Now, that what has afflicted you in accordance with the knowledge of Allah, that it was not meant to miss you. Meaning Allah already had full knowledge that affair was going to afflict you. And number two, that the affair was written. So that's the second affair, in which Allah Ta'ala has written down all the matters of good and evil taking place in this existence. It's all been written, which is also part of the qadr. And Allah Ta'ala willed it to happen, of good and evil. For those matters also are connected with the qadr. And finally, Allah created it. He brought it into existence. And those affairs are all connected with the qadr. And this is what you'll find that Abu Hanifa mentioned in this text, that he believed that firmly. In their book entitled Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh. So then you'll find that this is what he affirmed. In addition to what we want to mention now, and this is where we left off last class, what was his aqidah, his conviction, his belief concerning the companions? The companions of the Messenger of Allah. This is where we stopped at last class. He said, we do not now make any differentiation between them, meaning companions, meaning that we're pleased with all of them because Allah is pleased with all of them. And then we do not take certain specific ones from amongst them as allies, and then we say that others are evil. We don't do that. You'll find that the great Imam Muhammad al-Jami, that he says this, وَلَا تُوَالِي أَحَدًا دُونَ أَحَدًا مِنَ الصَّحَابَةِ وَلَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الصَّحَابَةِ وَتُحِبُّ الْجَمِيعِ وَتَحْتَرِمُ الْجَمِيعِ لا نفرق بين الصحابة الذين من أهل البيت وغيرهم وكلهم يجب احترامهم ومحبتهم من الإيمان وبغضهم من النفاق. He said we do not differentiate between them. We love all of them and revere all of them. We don't differentiate between those who are the family of the Messenger of Allah and other than them from the companions or the other companions. All of them, we respect them, love them, because love is from Iman, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon us for our faith to be correct, and that hating them is from hypocrisy. So notice Abu Hanifa, he goes on to say, وَأَن تَرُدَّ أَمْرَ عُثْمَانُ عَلَيْهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, and that you return the affair of Uthman ibn Affan and Ali ibn Abi Talib to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What was Abu Hanifa referring to here? What was he speaking about? Meaning that everything that taken place between the Sahaba of differing, or what we perceive of differing amongst them, or the fighting or the battles, those affairs are returned back to Allah. What do we say concerning those matters that have taken place between some of the companions? What do we say? Of what we see, or if one was to read the history, what is our aqidah and what is our position concerning that? That's what we need to ask ourselves. He said our position concerning that our belief, due to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He's pleased with all of them. So our aim and our belief firmly of what had taken place between them is that all of them intended the truth. Because Allah said He's pleased with all of them. That none of them wanted just mere position or what had taken place between them of something that was worldly or worldly type gain or worldly type goal. All of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincerely, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed their sincerity, that they all set out for the truth and for it to be established. And that their bughya, their intent was the truth. And that they set out to actualize it, and they set out to what? Implement it. So their intention was nothing worldly. or for worldly gain, or for worldly power, or just merely following their desires. Like we said, the qa'idah in this affair is that Allah said He's pleased with all of them. And there's another hadith of the Message of Allah in which we will mention to show that their intention was the truth. So you'll find that the Message of Allah in the narration that we're going to say, just in a minute, in one moment inshallah. Fine. So the first thing concerning the khilaf that had taken place between them, or the fighting, or the disagreement between some of them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that all of them had set out for the truth, and not to follow their desires in that, and it wasn't for any worldly gain. For you'll find that they wanted the people to embrace the truth and follow it. From amongst them who was correct. And who was correct, they will have two rewards. And the one that even though they set out for the truth, even though it might have been incorrect, then they still have a reward. And the affair is left with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in His book, and you'll find it which comes in the authentic sunnah. What is our position, and this is where we stopped at last class, and I told everyone to write this down, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory upon us to refrain our weapons and our spears from shedding their blood, meaning during their lives or during their lifetime, when they were alive. This was a qa'idah, which was known and established during the time of the companions, that even the Messenger of Allah, of course we know, his blood, it was not permissible for anyone to shed it. Rather, we will find that the narrations that say that the most evilest of creation is those who killed a prophet or attempted to kill a prophet. That's not only for the message of Allah and that's it. Rather, that was also for the companions. That the people were to maintain and hold them in high esteem and make sure their weapons were safe from shedding their blood. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that binding upon everyone. That during their lives, you'll find that the great Muhammad Amal Jami, he mentions this. He said, طالما ربنا صان أسلحتنا ورماحنا من دمائهم فيجب أن نصون أقلامنا وألسنتنا من أعراضهم. A very profound statement, and this is where we stopped at last class. He said, our Lord has made it binding that we protect our weapons and our spears from shedding their blood. It's obligatory for us to maintain our pens and our tongues from speaking about their honor or defamation of their honor. So this is the qa'idah Ahl Sunnah. Qa'idah Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as it comes in the poetry. In this poetry, you'll find it from the qasida of Az-Zabad li Ahmad ibn Raslan al-Shafi'i. He said, وَمَا جَرَى بَيْنَ الصَّحَابَةِ نَسْكُتُ عَنْهُ وَأَجْرَى الْإِجْتِهَادِ نُثْبِتُ. He said, what had taken place between the Sahaba, we remained quiet about it, and that the reward of ijtihad, meaning them being qualified scholars, where all of them sought out the truth, we affirmed that reward for them. Even though that maybe one was what? Wrong in that particular affair, but we still know the hadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, that what? The reward of the mujtahid, that he will have a reward. Even if he's wrong, he will receive one, and if he's right, he will receive two rewards. So we remained quiet what took place, or had taken place of those events between the Sahaba. We affirmed the reward of them being qualified scholars, where all of them sought the truth. So it's obligatory of our position of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah unanimously, from the Salaf and from the later generations, from the Khalaf. It's obligatory upon everyone that they respect the companions of the Messenger of Allah and never use these events that had transpired between them to defame them. As this is our aqidah, this is a belief, because it's incumbent upon us to maintain and uphold the conveyors of religion in high esteem. Because now once you defame them and condemn them, what will come as a result of it? The falling of the religion. Because once the people who conveyed it are suspect, then it also puts suspect in the religion itself. That's the reason why you'll find that these affairs are from the utmost of importance in regards to guarding and maintaining it, especially in regards to loving the companions of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, wa radiyallahu an ashabih. And may Allah be complete with his companions. He said, you'll find that the only people that speak and condemn or defame the companions of the Messenger of Allah are the people of desires, that they have ulterior motives and goals to set out to destroy the religion. And this has been a daydun. This has been in a habitual matter. You'll find it every time and place that they try to actualize in order for the religion to be rejected by the people. To say that the people who conveyed it were criminals. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. If as a result of it, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah said in authentic narrations, that love of the Ansar is what? That is Iman, and it is true love. And that hatred of the Ansar, and that is what? It's kufr and it's nifaq. It's a type of kufr and it's also hypocrisy. But these type of hadith is to show that the Messenger of Allah made it binding to love the companions, and the likes of these narrations that we just mentioned. That one is to love the companions of the Messenger of Allah, love them dearly and hold them in high esteem, because we love who Allah loves. In the love of Allah Ta'ala, we're supposed to love Allah and love who Allah loves. And the companions of the Messenger of Allah, Allah loved all of them, and He also said that He was pleased with all of them. So, what is from our Iman is to love and please who Allah loves and who He's pleased with. So those are the affairs that is binding of a belief of the people of the Sunnah. And you'll find, like we said, dear brothers and sisters, that these matters is from the belief of Abu Hanifa al-Nu'man ibn Thabit, rahimahullah, that this was his aqidah. So that's the whole point of why we're mentioning this now. So we don't want to lose track or sight of why we were mentioning these particular benefits. It was all concerning the aqidah, the conviction of the belief of Abu Hanifa. And we saw Abu Hanifa's real name was what, everyone? Nu'man ibn Thabit. At any rate, he said from the Khalaf, لأن من الخلف من وافق السلف في هذه المسألة وموقفهم سليم. Now what do we say concerning the Ash'ari? What was their belief concerning Abu Hanifa in regards to what he mentioned concerning the companions? What was the belief of the Ash'ari concerning the companions? He said, in this matter, you'll find the great Imam Muhammad Ahmad Jami said this. He said, as far as in regards to their position for the companions, then it's correct. وهم الأشاعرة, even though they're not from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But we still have to be just in what we mentioned. Even though a person is in opposition to you, we still have to be what? Just in what we say about that. You cannot lie on them. You cannot now put something of something that's untrue. Because like we said, all of that will invalidate what you're trying to establish of the truth if you lie upon the person who's your enemy. Still, the people of the Sunnah maintain truthfulness of what they convey about those who are in opposition. Because what will make their position strong and blessed by Allah is that you maintain what? Your truthfulness in regard to what you mentioned when you're critiquing someone who's your enemy. Because your refutation, your rebuttal will be blessed by Allah. It'll make it effective and it'll make it penetrate the people's hearts. And the people will what? Submit to it. But when you lie to set out the what? Against your enemy, it makes your what? It makes your position look weak. When you have to resort to lying in order to so-called establish the haqq. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. طيب. So إن كانوا خلفا فيخالفون السلف في كثير من المواقف ولكن في هذا الموقف موقفهم سليم. He said the Ash'ari, even though they're not from Ahl Sunnah, he says they oppose the Salaf in a lot of their positions as we know. However, in this position here from the companions, it's what? It's salim. It's sound. Their position from the Sahaba is like their position of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. يعني أن هذه من المواقف التي يوافق فيها الأشاعرة أهل السنة والجماعة. He said, so that we say, that we agree, and they agree, of course, in this particular matter. Even though they are in other affairs, they have become what? Criticized. And it opposes the belief of the Salaf. Fine, so let's keep going, everyone. Fine, so let's go. Abu Hanifa goes on to say, قال أبو حنيفة الفقه الأكبر في الدين خير من الفقه في العلم ولأن يفقه الرجل كيف يعبد ربه خير من أن يجمع العلم الكثير. الله أكبر. قال أبو مطيع الحكم بن عبد الله البلخي قلت أخبرني عن أفضل الفقه. قال تعلم الرجل الإيمان والشرائع والسنن والحدود واختلاف الأئمة، وذكر مسائل الإيمان، ثم ذكر مسائل القدر والرد على القدرية بكلام حسن ليس هذا موضعه. So let's read this part. Abu Hanifa goes on to say in the book entitled The Greatest Fiqh in the Religion, he says, is fiqh in knowledge. We're going to explain this. He said, الفقه الأكبر في الدين خير من الفقه في العلم. ولأن يفقه الرجل كيف يعبد ربه خير من أن يجمع العلم الكثير. This is what we're going to explain this line by Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He said the greatest fiqh in the religion is better than fiqh, is better than understanding and knowledge. We're going to explain this. Basically, just to start it off, explaining this line, meaning the greatest fiqh in regards to aqidah is the greatest of all knowledge, and it's better than fiqh in regards to different masail concerning jurisprudence or other knowledges that you might amass, whether it be secular knowledge or knowledge of the religion that's connected with the branches. Meaning, all of that has no type of true benefit unless you learn this knowledge first, which is the knowledge of aqidah and belief. Even if you know all the aqwal, all the statements concerning whether or not you should move your finger in the tashahhud or not, or keep it still, and you're weak in aqidah, and you have no proper knowledge of Allah, as if you have no knowledge at all. And that's what he's mentioning here. So, قال Abu Hanifa. That's basically to start up, or give the introduction to when we give a little bit more detail concerning this statement here. قال Abu Hanifa. He said, الفقه الأكبر في الدين خير من الفقه. So let's explain it. The fiqh of what, everyone? So what is the greatest of all knowledge again? Which is what is it? Except it's aqidah, belief. That is the greatest of all knowledge. Better than you amassing a lot of knowledge in the other affairs. Other affairs, whether they be connected with the branches, or if you want to say secular knowledge of the worldly matters. If a person does not have knowledge of Allah or proper knowledge of their Lord, it's as if they have no knowledge at all. Then he explains it. If you look in the line, he explains himself. He said, يجمع العلم الكثير في الفروع. Now listen to Shaykh Muhammad Aman Jami explains this statement also. Whoever amasses a lot of knowledge in the branches and other sciences, and he's ignorant of the reality of how to worship Allah properly, and ignorant of what is the rights of Allah over the human beings and over the slaves, and all the various types of worship, which is supposed to be sincerely for Allah, and Allah being singled out with its worship. وَمَا حُكْمُ صَرْفِ نوع مِنْ أَنْوَاعِ الْعِبَادَةِ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, and not having knowledge of the ruling regards to the knowledge or the different various worship that's only supposed to be for Allah, but you give it to someone else, meaning polytheism, and that you mix up the matters in these type of affairs, and you're not upon proper guidance. And then you take away the various types of worship for other than Allah, giving those rights to the creation, and falling into polytheism of its various types. He said, why? Because the person did not devote towards learning the proper knowledge first, which is the knowledge of Tawheed and Aqidah, even though he might amass a lot of knowledge or amass abundant of knowledge in other areas. لأن يفقه ويتفقه الرجل في الدين ويعرف كيف يعبد الله ويعرف حق الله على عباده وحق العباد على الله وحقوق رسول الله وحقوق الصالحين ولا يخلط بين هذه الحقوق يعطي لكل ذي حق حقه هذا خير له من أن يجمع العلم الكثير. Beautiful speech that puts everything in proper perspective for a person who truly wants to what? one who truly wants to be upon proper guidance and proper insight in regards to not just only religion, brothers and sisters, but life in general. That these are the what? These are the matters, and this is the protocol, the proper system that one is to adhere to if he truly wants to be a human being of quality, not a human being of quantity, but a true quality human being that is on the earth, and he's propagating what is correct, and he has knowledge of his Lord properly. And you'll find the great Imam Muhammad al-Jami says this. He said, binding upon the one, لِأَنْ يَفْقَى وَيَتَفَقَّى, that he attains fiqh, and he seeks knowledge and understanding in the religion, and he knows how to worship his Lord properly, and he knows the right of his Lord over the slaves, or over his servants, and the rights of the servants upon Allah, and the rights of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the rights of the righteous, and he does not mix between them. Because we know certain people, they worship the righteous. And certain people, due to their lack of knowledge, they even worship the prophets. Or they worship the Messenger of Allah. As we've heard this from certain Muslims. That they actually worship the Messenger of Allah. And given the right of Allah to the Messenger of Allah. Meaning that they mixed up the affairs. They did not educate themselves properly. Where they have accurately what? Understood and actualize these matters within their actions properly. For a person that learns this type of education and they give every proper right to who deserves it, this person is better than the one who amasses a lot of knowledge and they mix up the most vital of affairs and the most important of all of them. So that's the statement of Abu Hanifa. Does everyone understand that? Is it clear? So when we mention the statement of Abu Hanifa, this is what he was. This is what he was what? Meant the what? Or this is what he was saying here. But this is what he was explaining. That you have the affairs of aqidah and belief and worship in proper what? In proper order, then you amassing a lot of knowledge in other areas. Because like we said, everyone, a person that falls into polytheism, the knowledge you amass of fiqh and your secular knowledge, and you're falling into major polytheism, all of those affairs where a person will dwell in the hellfire for eternity, did those knowledge or those other knowledges benefit you? No, you didn't. In actuality, it's as if you what? It is as if you did not know Allah, as if you had no knowledge at all, or if you want to say knowledge that truly benefited you, except it was only momentarily, until in the hereafter, you didn't attain any true benefit. Because you fell into the major mistakes, which is connected with your belief, and the different type of perverted ideologies that you adopted, which came as a result of it, you jeopardize your hereafter. And Allah Ta'ala catch you in the hellfire as a result of you mixing up these matters. And that's the reason why you'll find that the people of the Sunnah devote and put forth their diligence into correcting these matters first. Because they're the greatest of all knowledge. It's the greatest of all knowledge that if you die upon it and your heart is sound and in a sound state in regards to these matters, inshallah, your abode will be paradise. So the matters of what is secular knowledge, or knowledge of which you'll find that certain Muslims that they argue in regards to fiqh issues, which is connected with the branches. And you'll find that Shaitan opens the door where they argue over certain fiqh issues. And you'll find that they what? Indulge in it, not properly, knowing the affairs of your belief and your aqidah and rectifying that first and giving that what? Precedence over everything. And that the Shaitan opens this door. And then you're still falling into believing in magic, believing in omens and practicing magic. Those matters are what? The affairs that would jeopardize your affairs of this world, or your true good of this world, and especially in the eternal affairs of the hereafter. So let's move on to the second statement of Abu Hanifa. So let's keep going. So we said that the second isnad in which this book was conveyed through who? Abu Muti' al-Hakim ibn Abdullah al-Balkhi. So that's number one. So, Shaykh al-Islam mentions it again. قال أبو مطيع الحكم بن عبد الله البلخي. He's the one that conveyed the book الفقه الأكبر. قلت I said أخبرني عن أفضل الفقه. Inform me of what is the best fiqh. قال تعلم الرجل الإيمان. A man learning Iman, the legislations, the sunan, the hudud, Notice he's going in order. Learning Iman first. Learning the legislations, learning the Sunan, and learning the Hudud. What's the Hudud? Meaning if you want to say, the prescribed punishments of those who transgress certain boundaries, of course. Those matters that are connected with it is called the Hudud. Meaning the prescribed punishments and the consequences of those who fall into matters that violate what Allah Ta'ala has sent down of boundaries not to transgress. So a person learning those prescribed punishments and what's connected to it is called the Hudud. Then he said, Rahimahullah, Abu Hanifa, وَاخْتِلَافَ الْأَئِمَّةِ, the differing of the scholars. We're going to explain this statement. Meaning how to deal with them and what you're supposed to do in regards to certain mistakes and what they fell into. Because certain Muslims don't know how to what? Conduct those matters properly. You'll find that the scholar makes a what? Mistake. They don't know how to deal with it properly. They'll still take the opinion and run with it. And just say, so-and-so said it. In regards to what? Those matters of how we're supposed to deal with it, if they make the mistake, and how to maintain respect for the scholar, even though it's considered a what? Mistake. So you'll find that people fall into those matters of being too far to the left and too far to the right in regards to that also. What do we mean too far to the left and too far to the right? Meaning that they'll love the scholar to the point where they'll follow them in a mistake. Or they'll go to the opposite side of the extreme where they'll start to defend the scholar and say, see, too what? Too extreme on both opposite sides of the extremes. Not knowing how to properly deal with it. And making excuses for those ulama of the past that might have fell into the mistake. We're not talking about the mistakes in Aqeedah. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the affairs in regards to what? In certain affairs of fiqh that they might have fell into in the issue. And knowing that Allah will give them a reward as a result of them making a mistake. Even though at the same time we're not to what? Follow them in that. So those are the matters that we'll talk about in detail in a moment. If we have time in this class. Or else we'll go into detail more in the next class, inshallah. But that's what he's speaking about here. And we'll talk about that, like we said, in depth later on. So he said, وَاخْتِلَافَ الْأَئِمَّةِ, differing of the A'imma. It says, then he mentioned the issues of Iman. And then he mentioned the issues of the Qadr, of the divine decree. Then he said, Abu Hanifa mentioned the refutation against the deviant sect called the Qadariyah. He said, by good what? By good profound statements. And he said, this is not the place for us to what? Expound on that or give detail. Fine. So let's mention this quickly and then we'll stop, inshallah. أما إذا جمع بين هذا كله فهو الفقيه صحيح. The great Imam Muhammad al-Jami, he says this. This is a great statement. He said, what we just explained of what was the belief of Abu Hanifa. Notice the order that he gave. He said the first thing that's binding upon every person is the affairs concerning Iman. So that's the foundation in the order of how you're supposed to educate yourself in the religion. You start with the affairs connected with your belief and have everything prioritized properly from beginning to end in order. Knowing how to learn your matters and educate yourself so you can be upon insight in your religion properly. Like we said, the gradual process is like this. Learning your Iman first. He said, then the legislations, then the Sunan. But we know certain matters are binding upon everyone, and certain matters are for the scholars, meaning for those who want to take it a bit further, for the student of knowledge and those who want to become scholars, then they learn the religion in detail. As far as the common folk, we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the great Muhammad al-Jami says, for the person that gathers between all these matters, then he is truly considered a faqih, a person that's a scholar with true sound understanding in the religion, which is correct. وَالْفَقِيهِ بِالْمَعْنَى الصَّحِيحِ, and a true person is a scholar who has true sound understanding with the correct meaning is this. He says, learning your Iman with Allah, learning your Iman in the message of Allah, and in the books, and in the angels, and in the Qadr, to the end of what we know, which comes in the hadith of what we know, everyone, which is Hadith Jibreel, or Hadith Jibreel, which is Iman, which is to have true, firm, sound belief of the heart, without it wavering, or without doubt, or without hypocrisy, true sound faith that is penetrated and settled in your heart. And then it manifests with your tongue. And then it's implemented in the actions, which is now shown upon the limbs. Those, like we said, it's obligatory for one to understand these matters properly. لا يزعم أن الإيمان هو مجرد التصديق. That he says, they're not supposed to say that Iman is just mere belief of the heart and that's it. لأن تصديق القلب إن لم يصدقه تصديق اللسان وتصديق الأعمال لا يعتبر. He says, because merely a person claiming that they have faith in the heart and that affair has not been actualized or been confirmed by the tongue nor in the actions, it's not considered at all. So a person to claim it that it's of the heart, but the tongue has not mentioned it, nor is this manifesting clearly in one's actions, then it's not considered. It's just considered the wish or something that a person hopes for, but it's not true. التصديق هنا في باب الإيمان ليس التصديق اللغوي تصديق مختص. He said the word تصديق, meaning belief that is settled and penetrated, he said you'll find the linguistic meaning. The linguistic meaning is not what we're talking about here. Rather, we're talking about the meaning of tasdeeq by the meaning of the Kitab and Sunnah, which is a specific meaning, which is the meaning in which tasdeeq of faith, where it's penetrated truly and settled in your heart, and if it's truly penetrated your heart, it will be actualized in your actions and in sound statements that you say with your tongue. And what will be manifest in your shahadatain, of course, with the two shahadas that we mentioned and one others, and like we said, it will be confirmed into actions if that matter has truly penetrated one's heart and settled in it. Al-qalb al-musaddaq bi-a'mal al-jawarih. And this is what we're speaking about in regards to Iman. We'll stop here. I think you forwarded the adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعثه مقام محمودا الذي وعدته. طيب, what do we say that the meaning of Iman, the specific meaning? We said Iman is tasdeeq. Tasdeeq meaning that affair has penetrated your heart and has settled in it. And if Iman has truly penetrated your heart and settled in it, then those matters or that Iman that you have in your heart will be confirmed by two other matters. Meaning, it will be confirmed by your actions. And it will be confirmed by what you utter off your tongue. تُصَدِّقُهُ الْأَعْمَالِ وَالتَّلَفُّظُ بِالشَّهَادَتَيْنِ. And what you utter by those two testimonies, which is the root that validates your Iman from the start. ذَلِكَ التَّصْدِيقُ هُوَ الْإِيمَانِ. That true tasdeeq, or that belief, that's considered Iman. Tasdeeq of the Iman, like we said, of what you will find of what the people do of actions. As we said, everyone, the actions is the measuring stick of your Iman, of your heart. If you look to your actions, that will give you the true condition of what's in your heart. Are you coming up in regards to your prayers? Are you coming up in regards to your uprightness with Allah, secretly and openly? What are you doing? If one was to put those matters in perspective and challenge yourself and evaluate yourself of your actions and a certain statement you utter, that will put in perspective the condition of your faith, of what level it's upon. Whether it be what? Of high level, or weak, or what have you. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We ask Allah to strengthen our iman, and to make us, or allow us to what? Reach the high levels of iman. So you'll find, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa, this is considered the aqidah which is binding upon every Muslim to embrace and believe firmly. That it's not an affair of which you'll find that Muslims will say that my faith is here, even though they abstain from certain obligations and justify it by saying my faith is here. I don't have to do that, my faith is here. You'll find that this is a satanic method in which Shaitan utilizes in order to misguide people. That they'll try to now use that iman as a hujjah to justify their evil. You'll find that them saying and putting their hand on their heart is to justify why they do certain acts, or they avoid certain acts, or they don't carry out certain acts as obligations for them to what? Perform. Justifying it by saying my faith is here. And in regards to certain affairs, like we said, that are outwardly supposed to be done, by saying iman is here. And every time you argue of why they did not perform that obligation, they'll say iman is here. Why don't you grow your beard? Iman is here. Sister, why you don't wear jilbab properly? Iman is here. Why do you have your pants below your ankles? Iman is here. Why don't you go to Jumu'ah? Iman is here. Why don't you perform the prayer properly? Iman is here. To the end of what? To the end of what they say as a so-called justifiable way that they try to now exonerate themselves from being corrected by saying what? That iman is here. If your iman is sound, it will be confirmed where? Within the tongue, and also within your what? Within your actions. The actions is the mirror of your heart. Is it clear, everyone? Your actions is the mirror of your heart. Your actions reflects of what is the state of your heart. Whether or not your belief has penetrated it in a manner where your iman is strong. This is what you'll find that the great imam is mentioning. So this basically now what Abu Hanifa is saying in this context. He's talking about here a true scholar. What is binding upon a true scholar? A person with sound understanding, a person with the correct meaning of the word faqih, a person that has true understanding of the religion. He said here, notice the order, he said those matters of iman, and what comes after that? The shara'i' was sunan, the legislations, and the sunan, meaning what was conveyed upon the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if a person wants to be a true student of knowledge, reaching this level of scholarly caliber, this is how he has to do it. He has to prioritize in this manner that we're mentioning, learning these affairs of aqidah and perfecting it. Then he learns the legislations. Then he learns the sunan, and what has been conveyed upon the message of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, and learning the hudud, the prescribed punishments and penalties. Then, what's he speaking about? Al-ahkam. So it came with the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what was reported and conveyed upon him, and learning the hudud, learning the prescribed penalties and punishments, meaning the ahkam. If a person truly wants to reach a scholarly level, scholarly caliber, then he has to learn the ahkam. And he has to also have insight of the ikhtilaf, of the difference between the a'imma, meaning the scholars of fiqh. That those of fiqh issues or matters that they call al-masail al-fiqhiyya al-far'iyya, like the affairs of jurisprudence, which are the branches of the religion, you'll find what those scholars of the past differed in and how to properly deal with it. And knowing how to what? How to now have respect for that scholar, but at the same time, teaching and enlightening the people not to follow them in that mistake. But the talib al-ilm, or the person that's trying to attain that level, that high level, scholarly caliber, needs to know how to deal with it properly. Or else they will fall into certain affairs, and you'll find, like we said, they'll lead others astray as a result of their ignorance in these matters. So that's what you'll find. Abu Hanifa is basically enlightening the student of knowledge of how to attain this high level, and what is binding upon them, and what is the level and the order that they have to follow in order to attain this type of, like we said, scholarly level. The great Imam, he goes on to say, Muhammad Aman, he says, يَنْبَغِي طَالِبُ الْعِلْمِ يَعْرِفْ هَذِهِ الْإِخْتِلَافَاتِ. The student of knowledge has to have knowledge of this type of difference. Al-ikhtilaf al-fiqh. We talked about the ikhtilaf and the affairs connected with the branches, not the affairs connected in Aqidah. the issues that are considered the branches of those certain matters or those fiqh issues, we know is called Majal al-Ijtihad. It is a place that was what has now been used between those scholars where one can give their opinion, like we said, of what they know, of what they can convey, of proper knowledge that they receive, that they can give their insight in that matter. But we know that the knowledge of certain scholars did not reach certain scholars. But other scholars, the chains of the narrations of the Messenger of Allah reached them, and that's what's binding for us to follow in that issue. And then we say for that scholar that the knowledge did not reach him, we say that the reward will be given of what he gave of a fatwa, even though it was incorrect. So those are the matters that a person or a student of knowledge has to have knowledge of, have insight of these matters. So the affairs will not become, like we said, mixed, or he falls inside of affairs that are considered detrimental for himself and detrimental against others. So he said, he said, now listen. He said, this knowledge that one has to attain, the student of knowledge, or the person that's a scholar, that he has to learn how to deal with these affairs properly in order that will come as a result of it. If he has ignorance in these matters, he will blind follow a statement of a scholar. He will blind follow, meaning a statement that he clearly knows is incorrect. Clearly knows it's incorrect. He will know the dalil of the Masjid of Allah, and he'll still give precedence to the statement of that particular scholar, even though he knows the statement of the Masjid of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he knows it clearly to be authentic, and he'll just say, yeah, that's the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, but at the end of the day, I love, and my fiqh, or my madhab is such and such. My madhab is this. But you say the madhab is based upon what was conveyed upon the Messenger of Allah. And that there wouldn't be any madhab if it wasn't for Allah and the Messenger of Allah. There wouldn't be any madhab to be respected in at all if it wasn't for Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. So where is it binding for who to follow and what to follow? Except what? What qala Allah wa qala what? Rasulullah. Whatever Allah said and what the Messenger of Allah said. But you'll find that because people do not have sound understanding and knowing how to deal with these matters that's connected with the branches, they'll fall into blind fanaticism in certain areas of fiqh and fall into major mistakes. For example, you'll find people praying with their arms to the side. That's a blind following statement that is a mistake. And you'll find that the people do it, and you'll say the Messenger of Allah did this. This is how the Messenger of Allah prayed. The Messenger of Allah prayed like this. They'll still say, so-and-so prayed like that. That's enough for me. These are the matters you'll find that is befitting, rather it's obligatory upon the student of knowledge to learn. If you want to reach properly scholarly levels, you have to know these type of matters and know how to properly learn them so you don't fall into these major mistakes. Is it clear, everyone? This is what Abu Hanifa was mentioning. We'll stop here, inshallah. We'll continue tomorrow. Any questions about the lesson?
Like you just said, so yeah, some people pray the Qiyam, the arms to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some members that hadith state, that the command put it right over the left.
Absolutely.
Prayer.
All the companions of the Messenger of Allah prayed with their arms on their chests. That's the thing. The people don't learn proper foundations. None of the Muslims from the deviant sects are properly educated. You'll find that they always busy them. They stress the importance of secular knowledge, then that knowledge of the religion. Read a book here and there. Learn certain affairs of, pick up a book and just read anything. They're not properly knowledge. They're not properly being educated. So you'll find that they fall into these matters. And they will argue you down. They will argue you down. Some of them will even reach the levels of fighting you. And they possibly could reach the level of killing you over an affair that he's 100% wrong in. Similar to the Christians. Christians, they are 100% wrong. And they blindly follow in a matter based upon their emotions. Blindly following their emotions. How the emotions can lead you to so many great errors. Emotions, I'm following behind my heart. How many times have we said it, brothers and sisters? How many experiences we had in our life, we followed behind our heart and we found out we was totally wrong? How many times have you loved somebody and you found out that they don't even care about you? and you blindly love them. And no matter what people came to tell you, that individual does not love you, they will not listen to you. And they will keep falling into more errors and more errors and more errors and destroying their lives over blindly following their heart. When the evidence shows otherwise, what's the evidence? Their actions, how they treat you, how they speak to you, how they do things. What's the confirmation of that true love, everyone? Except that is what? Their actions and how they treat you and how they deal with you. Those are the matters you'll find in our religion is what's considered. Right, everyone? Yeah, so that's the matters we'll talk about. We'll stop here, inshallah, because we have to stop pray Isha. How many minutes do we have until the Iqamah? I think about 2 more minutes. When did it come in?
30 more.
5:30.
It's 7:44 now.
7:30. So it came at 7:31?
Yeah.
So we got about 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes until Iqamah. Anything else?
Another thing, add on that, some people say, okay, I'm Ash'ari and believe, but I'm Maliki fit. That's what I'm getting at. So,
I'm Ash'ari in Aqidah and I'm Maliki fil fiqh.
why don't just follow Maliki? You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you be the Aqidah, the message of Allah in Aqidah, and be the Aqidah, the message of Allah, and also be fiqh of the message of Allah first. And those Sahaba, those companions. And if you wanted to take a madhab that caters towards eating that understanding. That's what I'm saying, sound understanding. The Muslims don't learn it these days. They mix everything up. And you'll find that they don't devote towards educating them properly. They don't start with none of these matters. That's why you have to thank Allah Ta'ala. There are people out there that truly give the proper knowledge, disseminate it properly, and start the people what they need first. Because the first thing you're going to be asked about as soon as you die, as soon as you go in the grave, as soon as your body's put under the dirt, affairs concerning Aqidah. That's it. It's not going to be asked about fiqh. It's not going to be asked about secular knowledge that you have in this world. It's not going to be asked about none of that. The angels are going to ask you, what? Who's your Lord? Who's your prophet? Who's your what? What's your religion? What's that's connected with everyone? Your Aqidah. And then they're going to ask you, they say in another narration, what will make you know that? Meaning that what substantiate your claim? Except that it had to be what? The knowledge you attain. Meaning, I'm not saying this based upon blind following. I'm not saying this because I just inherited from my grandma and I heard it from people. I'm saying it because I attained proper knowledge and I firmly believe that based upon that knowledge that I attained. You understand? So those are your phrases we'll stop here. Sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Subhanaka wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.